Okay, so I'm going to assume that you were able to upload the GSS 2018 data file up into StatCrunch. And of course, you've been able to log in before you did that. And you're looking at a screen that looks just like the one that you're seeing here. So the first step is then to compute a set of statistics for the age of respondent variable. So we want to get the population mean. I'm going to go up to Statistics, Summary Stats, for a column, which column, the age of respondent column, and simply click Compute. So that's a range of statistics for this variable. It shows the column, it shows the variable name. In fact, we have a population, quote-unquote population of about 2,300 individuals, and the mean age is 48.469 years, and some other things that we're not going to use right now. So it's very important that you write down this mean someplace and don't lose it. Again, 48.469, if you prefer 48.5 really. But actually, make sure you write down this full number because that will be important later on. 48.469291. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is draw our sample from this population. So to do that, I'm going to go to Data, Sample. I'm going to select the variable I want to sample, only the age. I want a sample size for this first run, a sample size of 100, and I want to draw 100 samples. We'll leave the rest of the dialog box as it is and click Compute. And you'll see in this info box that StatCrunch has reported that it's done what we've asked it. And if you look over here, you can see all those samples. I'm going to get rid of this by clicking the X over there. A little easier to see. Now what we want to do is we want to compute some basic sample statistics from each one of these 100 samples that we've drawn. And remember, in the real world, we would never draw 100 samples. We'd only draw one single sample. What I'm doing here is a demonstration. What I'm asking you to do here, rather, is a demonstration to show how confidence intervals work. All right, so we're going to go over to Statistics again, Summary Stats, again, Columns. This time, I want to get statistics for all of my 100 samples. So I'm going to click on the first one, scroll all the way down, holding down the Shift key on my keyboard. I'm going to select all 100 samples and ask that StatCrunch return to me a mean. And again, holding down this time the Control key, might be Option on a Mac. Click Standard Error, and then hit Compute. And there we go. Nearly instantaneously, we have a mean for every sample and a standard error for every sample. Next step is to take this and move it out into Excel. So, how do we do that? Well, one thing you can do is simply click anywhere in the table here, and then holding down the Shift and Control key, press A. If you forget or don't know how to do that, another thing you can do is go up to Options, click Copy, and it's just going to give you those instructions. So anyway, let's go back to what we had before. Control Shift A. All right. Now what we want to do is copy this into Excel. So how do we do that? Well, make sure first that you have the template file open someplace on your computer so you can easily copy and paste. I'm going to, again, move my cursor anywhere in the table. Once everything is selected like this, I'm going to right-click and select Copy. So everything now is ready to copy, and I'm going to move over now to Microsoft Excel. Okay, so I'm over here in Excel, and you'll notice that down here I have the Stage 95-100 tab selected. What does that mean, by the way? I just am using this as a staging area to make the copying and pasting a little bit more convenient. You don't strictly have to use this, but I think your life will be way easier if you do. So it doesn't really matter where I paste this. I don't know what the instructions say, but it doesn't make much difference. Well, I think actually I tell you to do it in A1. So let me move up to A1. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to click Control V to paste. All right. So now I've pasted everything, but of course the only thing I'm interested in for my confidence interval is the actual data. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to select these two cells, hold down the Control and Shift key and the down arrow key, and now I've selected, as you can see, all 100 samples. This goes down to row 103 because we've used those first few rows here for this column header information. Again, I'm going to right-click and select Copy. Now I'm going to go down here to my 95th percentile confidence interval, n equals 100. Actually, I'm going to go over here because this one is for me, not for you. Go down to 95 n equals 100. And I'm going to paste what I just copied into cell E3. It's got to go into E3. Setting up these types of charts is rather difficult, so that's why I've set them up for you. But their proper use assumes that you're going to paste the values that you need to paste into the correct cells. So I've selected E3. I'm going to press Control V or Option V on a Mac, and there is all of my data moved over from StatCrunch. Okay, what's next? Well, let me explain a little bit about what's going on here. These little dashes represent the mean value. We don't have the interval value yet, though, so we need to compute those. So we'll do the first one here. We're going to type in equals. What's the formula for confidence interval? Again, it's going to be the sample mean, which is located in E3, plus 1 point. Actually, let me go back. Sorry, this is the lower limit of the confidence interval. You see L limit. So it's going to be the mean minus 1.96. Why 1.96? Because that's the Z value for a 95% confidence interval times the standard error. I'm going to press Enter, and I've got there the lower limit of my confidence interval. Let's do the upper limit. This is a little bit in variation the way I have it in the instructions. This is a little bit quicker. You can do it either way. Equals, again, the formula for confidence interval, the mean. This time we want the upper limit, so it's E3 plus 1.96 times the standard error, which is located in F3. I've clicked on that. Press Enter. There's the upper limit. You see that I've just drawn that confidence interval, or Excel, I should say, has drawn that confidence interval. There's the upper bound, about 53, a little bit more than 53, 53.8, and the lower limit down here, a little bit more than 47. All right, now, we want this for all 100 samples. How do we do that? Okay, this is part of given students some problems in the past. You can see over here this little filled-in black rectangle. I'm going to move my cursor over that until it becomes that filled-in cross. At that point, I'm going to double-click, and like magic, I've computed a confidence interval for all 100 samples. Okay, and you can see what's going on here. Here's the confidence interval, and if you take a quick look, you can see that there are a bunch of our true population was what, about 48.5. So that's going to be somewhere about here, I think it is. So we're going to draw a line now all the way across just to represent that. To do that, I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to insert a shape. And the shape I'm going to insert is this one here, a straight line. Okay. Now, this requires a little bit of eyeballing, but we were at 40, so we have 45, 46, 47, 40, 45, 46, 47, 48. It's about 48 and a half. So I'll move my cursor just about over there. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is just an illustration. And I'm going to hold down the Shift key and draw a horizontal line all the way across like so. Now you can quickly see which of these samples does not contain the true population mean. Note, most of these do. About how many do? About 95%. Why 95%? Because it's a 95% confidence interval. All right, let's take a close look. Looks like this one over here is going to be too high. This interval was too high. Why is that? Random sampling variation. This one over here looks like it's a tad too low. Again, why? Random sampling variation. This one over here, also too low. I've set this up in such a way that you can take a look in this cell if you want to see how I did this and how this works. It gets a little bit advanced. Don't have to worry too much about how that works, but there's some formulae that allow me to do that. One more thing I'd like you to do, and that's to compute the average width of these confidence intervals. So how are we going to do that? We're going to simply take the width of each one, and that's going to be equal to what? The upper limit minus the lower limit. That's the width, right? And we'll fill down the same way. Again, highlight the cell we want to fill down. Note the little filled in box in the lower right-hand corner. Move our cursor until we get the filled in cross. Double click, and there's all of our widths. And this cell here computes the average. Once you've computed the individual widths, this cell will compute the average width. Okay, so we've done our first one. We only have 3 more to go. So what do? Back to StatCrunch, which is over here. You can close out of this now. And it will be easier and more convenient if we simply delete all of these samples. We don't need these anymore. We've done part 1. So we're going to go over here to, I think it's Edit, Columns, Delete. And again, we're going to select the columns we want to delete. They begin over here. Same idea. Select sample 1, scroll all the way down, hold on to the Shift key, click on sample 100, click Compute, and they're gone. And we're back to redoing the same thing we did before, drawing a sample, but this time the samples will be of size 20. So let's go over here again to Sample, and this time our sample size is only 20 cases. We still want 100 samples. All of the 4 runs will take 100 samples. What variable do we want to sample? Age of respondent. That looks good. Click Compute. And again, this info box is telling us that StatCrunch has understood and completed the instructions. We're going to close out of that. And again, we can see all of the samples that we've computed. And let's go over now to run the same statistics we ran before. Summary stats, columns, age of respondent. What do we want? We want the mean, and we want the standard error. By the way, it's important that you do mean first and then standard error. If you don't, if you do it like this by mistake, then when you go to paste those values in to the Excel spreadsheet, they're going to be reversed. So don't do it that way. You're going to have all kinds of problems. Click mean, hold down the control key, option on the Mac, click compute. Oops, and I didn't do that right because I didn't ask it for data on all of the samples. Summary stats again, columns, sample 1, all the way to sample 100. Hold down the Shift key, click on sample 100, and there we go. Okay, it looks good. Again, mean first. Hold down Control Option, standard error. Click Compute. There's everything we need. Oops. And we'll just click anywhere in the table itself. Hold down the Control and the Shift key and press A. Select everything. Right-click. Copy. Back over to our Excel spreadsheet. Now we're going to go to stage 9520. Just indicates this is the staging area for the 95th percentile confidence interval where n equals 20. We're in A1, Control V. I think you can actually also just right-click on the mouse and select Paste. If you do that, probably a little better to not use source formatting, use rather destination formatting. Doesn't matter, but if you're fussy about the way things look, you want to click on match destination formatting. Okay. Again, we just want the data, so we're going to select these two columns, or these two rows rather, cells rather. That's going to be B4 and C4. Hold down the Control and the Shift key, press the down arrow. And again, if we wanted to, we could just scroll down. I'll show you how to do that. It takes longer. It's a little bit more fussy, but you could do it that way too. Some people are better with the mouse and some people are better with the keyboard. So you see, it just takes a while to scroll all the way down. We have to make sure we stop at the right spot. All right, again, right click, or if you want, you can also click copy up here. Okay, and now we're going to go to this tab, nth, 95th percentile, n equals 20. And do the same thing. All right. Hopefully you get the idea. And at this point, you can move forward and compute that lower limit, that upper limit, that width, and see what happens over here to these things that I built in for you. One final note. When you get to do the 60th percentile confidence interval, both the 100 sample size and 20 sample size, you're going to have to change what? You're going to have to change the formula that you're going to use for lower and upper limit. Why? Well, for 95% confidence interval, we use 1.96. For a 60th percentile confidence interval, we use 0.84 something else that I don't remember, but it's in the instructions. What I want you to do is go through that and then take a look at the questions at the end of the exercise, and I think you'll find some interesting results that should underline for you the properties and how to correctly use confidence intervals. Okay, hope this was helpful.